In this video, I'm going to show you how to elevate the privileges of your default account. What does that mean? Well, by default, when you start the system up, you log in as the user student, and that user really has no privileges. It can't administer the Linux environment. It is a plain user, normal user account, and so it has very limited access to administrative tasks such as partitioning, configuring certain services, starting things, looking at certain files. It is just a functional user. It can save files to the desktop, it can surf the web, it can do things that the administrator has set up for it. Now, there are two ways you can actually elevate the privileges of your account. The first one I'm going to show you is the traditional way it's been done, and that's to use the SU command. And SU stands for switch user. The other way, which we'll look at in another video, is the sudo command. Sudo allows you to run commands, just the command itself, with the elevated privilege of the root user. And that's another account we need to discuss. On this machine right here, right now, we have two accounts by default. We have the student account and we have the root account. Every account except root is just a plain account, a very basic account. The root account is the all-powerful account that can do anything to the system. As a matter of fact, on operating systems like Ubuntu, Linux Ubuntu, and Mac OS, they basically disable the root account because they don't want you to use that account to administer your machine. They actually have you use the sudo command to accomplish the task, the administrative task that you need to. This SU account, you'll see me use this a lot, is a very easy way to log in as root. Now this is the key. When I SU on the system and I say nothing else, there's no other name that comes after this. If I just type SU and press enter, it's asked for the password, and the password it's asking for is the root account, because it knows you didn't put a name after SU, so you're not trying to go to some other non-privileged account. You want root. So I have to put in root's password in here, and you'll notice that the prompt changes to red. Now I set that up for you, just so you know when you're actually logged in as root. By default, the system would not do that, but red is one of those indications. When you see that prompt, you know you are in as the super user, root, and you want to respect that account because it can do a lot of damage to your system. Now, what's interesting about this, I SU'd in, but you'll notice, and I'll show you the difference, you'll notice right here, it still shows me as being in the student's desktop home directory. So I switched users. I literally logged in as a different user, but it left me with some of the environment of the other user, and that can be a bit of a problem sometimes. On some distributions, this path, so if I echo my $ path here, sometimes on some distributions that path is left as the student, which in this case it still is. On some distributions it's a problem because they don't give you access to SBIN, which we have here. So right there is SBIN. So it's not really an issue, it's more of an inconvenience. If I SU without putting the dash, which changes my environment, I end up still with the user's environment, especially their path variable, which sometimes can just inconvenience me. I can't run a command when I need to. It's there, I can do anything I want. I am root, but I just have to go find it in the system. Instead of just typing SU like we did here, what you're better off doing is typing SU with a dash. The dash really implies -L, which means we're going to log in, which then changes the environmental variables over, and certain things like that path statement change with me. Now watch what happens when I'm going to exit out from here. I'll go back. I'm back as student. I'm going to SU in this time, but I'm going to put a dash here, and I'll press enter, put the same password in. Notice the difference. The prompt is completely different. I am actually in that little squiggly line right there. The tilde represents my home directory. So if I type pwd, which is a command that shows me where I currently am, I am in root's home directory. So that's a change that you can visibly see. The path has changed. Where I currently am has changed. And my path has also changed. Once again, not a huge deal right now because of the way CentOS handles this SBIN, but my path has also changed. So the dash is something I always recommend you do when you're changing or when you're SUing into different accounts. So I'm going to exit out of here. Now we can SU into other accounts. I did create a Joe account on here. And when I press enter, it's asking me for a password. Whose password do you think it's asking me for? Well, it's asking me for the Joe user's password. So if I don't know Joe's password, I cannot get in as him as a plain vanilla user like student. So I'm going to press Control-C to break out of that. I'm going to SU in as root. Remember, I don't have to put anything. If I just put the dash, it knows I want to be root. Here I am as root. Now, watch what happens here. If I SU and say go to Joe, I am root, all powerful. It doesn't ask me for a password. It just puts me right there. And that's a great indication of the power of the root account and why you need to respect it. So what I'm going to show you next is the sudo command, which is what a lot of distributions use so that you don't actually log in as root. The problem with SU is that you have to know root's password. And once you know root's password, you can do anything. So if we had 10 users on here, we all wanted them to have root privilege, we would all have to give them root's password or administrative tasks, which could be a problem. So the sudo command, I'll show you that, which is an alternative to SUing into a system.